Hello everyone, welcome back here to my channel. It is the end of the school year. I I can't believe that I'm like filming these roundup videos for the end of the year because it's gone by so quickly. But I am excited to share some things with you that we've kind of learned throughout the year, some reviews, and in today's video I want to do a little bit of like a roundup and review of the read alouds that we went through as a family this year. So hey there, if you are new, I am Christine. I'm a homeschooling mama of 3 kiddos. I live in a small coastal town in New Zealand, and I was actually homeschooled myself. So second generation homeschooler, and just love it. It's like certainly part of my identity, that's for sure. And I love to share homeschool content here on this channel. That's what this channel is all about. So if you're interested in seeing more from me, go ahead and subscribe. And today I'm just going to share the read alouds that we did this year. I think we pretty much stuck to what I had planned for our read alouds for the year, but there were a few things. There was at least one that we deviated from and did something different. So I've got the read alouds, the physical books that we read in front of me, and then there were a few that I had borrowed from our library as ebooks, and so I don't have those. But I've got my planner here where I wrote down the books that we read, just to double check that I'm not missing any. So how I planned it was, for the year I planned to read about 2 books a term, and for us a term was 6 weeks. So our school schedule was 6 weeks on, 1 week break, and we had 6 6-week terms. And then we read 2 books for every term except for our final one, because I didn't have one planned, and at first I was like going to add one in, and then I decided no, because it's almost summertime here and my kids like being outside, and I felt like I was trying to like tie them down to get them to listen to books, and I thought, you know what, it's better for them to be outside. I would rather not fight that battle. And so we've just stuck with one read aloud this term, and that went really well. So I'm going to go through each book that we did, and I've just got them in front of me, so if I'm looking down, that's why. So the first one is Stuart Little. We did that. My kids enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was like a favorite book of theirs. It was a short and easy read, but they did enjoy it. The storyline was fun, and it was different, and I had never read the actual book before. I'd only ever watched the movie, and so it was nice to, you know, read where it originated from. The next one was Trumpet of the Swan, and all of us really enjoyed this one. It was just a really lovely story, and it was interesting, and the characters were interesting. It was an easy read, and we learned something about another part of the world, which was great, and so I would say that was a great one. And I meant to say this at the beginning, but for reference, for the majority of this year, my children were 6, 4, and 2 years old. My girls are now 5 and 3, but for most of the year they were 4 and 2. And so I was reading to all of them these books. And I mean, my 2-year-old, how engaged she is with the story is debatable, but certainly my 4 and 6-year-old throughout the year were definitely listening. So for younger kids, definitely recommend Trumpet of the Swan. The next one is Mr. Popper's Penguins. Now, my kids did enjoy this book. Personally, I just didn't love it. I didn't really like Mr. Popper, and it's probably because I'm so sensible, but he just seemed really irresponsible, and it bothered me. And so I don't think that there's anything, like, I don't think that one book is going to corrupt my children's morals or anything like that, but personally, I didn't love who he was as a person. I don't think he was a bad man. I just think he was irresponsible. So I don't know. I don't want to like put people off the book, because I do think it's worth reading, but I didn't really love it, to be honest. Okay, and then the one that we didn't end up doing that I had written down was 5 Little Peppers and How They Grew, and we started that, and my kids just did not engage at all. The language was very Old English, and they just struggled. So I think it's a beautiful story, but I think we're going to revisit that when they're a few years older. So then I'm going to go into the other things that we read. I'll do the single ones, and then I'll do the series. So we did The Wild Robot. This is highly recommended by many homeschool mamas that I've seen, and we loved this book. It is a wonderful story. It's really sweet. The chapters are very short. all of my kids liked this, and it made me want to buy. There is a sequel that goes with it. I don't know if it's as good, so if you've read the first one and the second one, let me know. Is it worth reading the second one? Because if it is, I'll go ahead and grab that. But yeah, really, really like this book, and I recommend it. And then the other single one that we did was All of a Kind Family, and I would say that this was my favorite book that we read this year. I loved this book. I didn't know this existed, and I would have loved this when I was a kid, and I've also found out it's part of a series. However, it is not easy to get the other books, and they're not cheap. So I really want to read the rest of the series, but I just don't know if I'm going to be able to get hold of them. So I don't know. If you're in New Zealand and you know a cheaper place to get hold of these, let me know. All I can find is like single ones, and they're like $20 plus US, and then I have to pay shipping on top of that, and that's for a single book. So that's a lot of money for a chapter book. But I also found it a very wholesome series. It did have, no, there wasn't anything wrong in it. There was like some vocabulary, I would say, that was used back in the day that we don't necessarily use anymore now. But my children don't really know that vocabulary anyway, and so I either just skipped past it or we discussed it. So I don't think it was a big deal at all. But it was very interesting because they are a Jewish family living in New York. And so completely different culture and religion from us. And so it was very interesting and informative. I think the characters are wholesome, and it's just a really fun book. And I want to like find out what happens to all of them now. So I loved that. And then I've got the series that we read. So we have, I actually don't have the fourth one here, but I got the Winnie the Pooh, the complete collection. I actually got this for Annie for Christmas last year. And we read all of them. So we read Winnie the Pooh, which is this one. We read The House at Pooh Corner. And then there are 2 poetry books. So we went through this whole one when we were young, and I just read like a poem a day pretty much over breakfast. And we're just finishing up the 4th one, which is Now We Are 6. Hopefully the camera's like focusing in on that. Probably not. But we're just about finished that one. So we will hopefully finish it by the end of the year. And all of these we've loved. Like, there was not a single one we didn't love. We enjoyed all of them. So I recommend the whole series, especially for younger kiddos. And then finally, the Enid Blyton Wishing Chair and the Magic Faraway collection. So this is actually 2 series altogether. There's 6 books, so we read one of these per term. And we started with the Enchanted Wood was the first one. Loved this one. I love Enid Blyton. I grew up on Enid Blyton. I'm aware that maybe in America she's not so well known, but I love it. For like my British heritage just understands her writing, I guess. But so there's the Enchanted Wood, and I love this. It's about characters it's about a brother and sister who go out into the woods near their house. They've moved to the country, and there's an enchanted tree there, and they go on like these fun adventures and everything. If you're not into any kind of magic, the series is not going to be for you. I grew up in this. It doesn't bother me at all. So yeah, that's just something to be aware of. And then there's the next one is the Folk of the Faraway Tree, and then the Magic Faraway Tree as well. So there's those 3, and my children absolutely love these. Like Jack really loved them, and they talk about the characters all the time in them. And then the second series from Enid Blyton that we just finished is The Adventures of the Wishing Chair, and this is a brother and sister, Molly and Peter, I think they are, and they come across this chair that sprouts wings and flies to different lands. And so, again, it's adventures, it's fun, and they learn good lessons along the way. I mean, some of it's just silly, but it's fun. And so my kids did like this, but I think that they preferred the Magic Faraway Tree, which I think I do too, honestly. But funny enough, this is the one I remember the most from my childhood. So it's got that, and then this was the sequel, the Wishing Chair again, and then more Wishing Chair stories. Oftentimes you can find these in thrift shops, so like you could get them there, but I do recommend all of these books. Like, they're great. My kids, like Jack is already talking about when he'll be able to read them on his own and all that kind of stuff, because he just enjoyed them so much, and he was really sad to say goodbye to the characters, and I think that's a sign of a very good book. So there we go. those are the books that we read. I think there was one other one that I put down here. Yes, Our Little Spartan Cousin, and we read that not as a set read aloud, but it was part of our Bible geography history curriculum, and so we read that, and it was good. It was Old English, but I think my kids Jack certainly engaged with it. Annie, I would not say. I don't think she engaged with it at all, but it was a good book to read. It was interesting, and yeah, I mean, I recommend it for a historical perspective. So those were the books that we read, and I'm very excited about the books that we're doing next year. Like, I'm really, really excited. I've decided on at least like our main book series, and then I've got a second book series, and I'll probably add like one or two more, depending. So we'll see how it goes, and I'm excited to talk about that with you guys in upcoming videos. So if you have any questions for me, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.
The world had more of your smile. What if the wind could spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach everyone? There'd be no wars.